Hi everyone, hopefully you can all hear me, and we're going to do a nice preview of the Cheltenham Festival, fingers crossed. We're going to try and go through as quickly as we can, so I don't think we'll spend much time on the handicaps because you'll get loads of places on the day, but we'll see what our guests have to say. So joining me today is co-founder Will Kinsey. We've also got Ben Brookhouse, who's the assistant to Ian Williams. And then we have Jonjo O'Neill Jr., who hopefully will have some rides he can tell us about at the festival. So we'll get cracking, everyone. So first up, we'll start with the Supreme, as we'll make sure he's got his drink ready. Right. And I guess we'll start with you, Ben. Who do you fancy for the Supreme?
Whichever one Willie runs, really. I think they say Sir Gerhard is going for the Ballymore. Start Dynamo, if he turns up in that, you could see a repeat of sort of Duvan from the front. The only thing, he hasn't gone left-handed. He's had plenty of racing, though, to be fair. He's all right. I don't like Constitution Hill. They won a Tolworth, and we've won a Tolworth and won a Supreme, but Somerville Boy was a freak. He shouldn't have won a Supreme Novice, only for the fact he's so gutsy. If I had to pick one of the English, I think John Bon is one of the classiest ones I've seen, but I'd rather see him in the Ballymore. But it might be a bit far for him to go, to be fair. So he'd probably take a chance in Supreme, but Start Dynamo looks a fair animal.
Okay, so Start Dynamo is Ben's selection. Junior, are you a bit worried about Nicky Henderson's form in February, or are you going to be backing one of his to get the festival off to a good start for the English?
Yeah, I suppose it is probably a bit of a worry. Like the last 2 weeks, he's 0 from 18. Maybe most of them probably didn't have chances, but it's probably not what you want going into the festival. But I am a massive Constitution Hill fan. The day he won the first day at Sandown, I was at Aintree with James Bowen before he ran, and he said to me, "This is the best horse I've ever worked in Nicky's." And James has been there a good few years now, so he obviously has ridden a lot of good horses. So I took notice of him from then, and obviously he won easy that day. He won a Tolworth, nothing. He probably hasn't beaten much in behind, but I've seen him in the yard at Nicky's, and he's just got a lovely, relaxed way of going about him. I think he'll probably take the prelims obviously better than John Bon. He's just so relaxed, even in his races he's relaxed, and he's a push button job. Obviously what he's going to go against is a lot different to what he's been against all season, but I'm a massive fan of his. I do think he'll win, but there is a question mark. I suppose you probably could think that Nicky's could be in slightly better form. The other interesting one, whether he goes for it or not, Mighty Potter, there's been some strong words from Gordon around him. I don't think he's proven as much as a lot of the other ones like Dynamo, John Bon, etc. But I think he just won maybe, I don't know what he is, 8 or 9 to 1. He might just be a bit of value and running. Wouldn't surprise me if he runs the placings, but I'm a big Constitution Hill fan.
I think that his constitution, as it were, could be key. Do we think it's going to be, surely the atmosphere this year with it being missed last year is going to be a massive factor, particularly on the first race. Do you think that will have a big impact, Will?
Well, I think Jonjo must have seen my notes beforehand. He's got a spy in the room, I think. This could, I've probably said this a few times, this could be the best race of the week. I think the start to Tuesday and the start to Wednesday are great days. Constitution Hill, I agree with some of what Ben has said, but I'd be in Jonjo's camp. I think visibly he looks like the complete horse. He could be a chaser in the making. Just the way he's gone about his business, he hasn't been flashy, but the way he's done it has just looked imperious. He's just kind of done it, and it's not doesn't appear to have taken anything out of him. He just looks complete natural. And I'm very excited to see what he does in the future. And I'm a big Mighty Potter fan too. Obviously, Sir Gerhard, where he turns up, is going to have a big play in this.
It looks like he's going to the Ballymore, it seems today.
It looks that way at the moment. So then obviously, Dice at Dynamo. Look, it is a fantastic race, but I'm a big Mighty Potter fan as well. I was in Fairy House when he went there that day. He, again, probably similar to Constitution Hill, he looks like he could be a chaser for the future. So he's a good each way price. And I'm excited to see what he does in the future. But if you're going to push me, I also think El Fabiolo could be a nice each way price, another one of Willie's. But if you were going to push me, I would be Constitution Hill.
Okie dokie. And I will round it off by, I actually think a different horse from all three of you is the value for the Supreme, because although I think it could be the best Supreme we've seen, probably since Altior's, I think some bubbles going to get burst. And I just wonder if you just look at Kilcrut's last run when he had a tongue tie on, what odds would he be if that was kind of the run he was coming in off and he hadn't bombed out first time? So I think each way he's a massive player. So we've got 2 for Constitution Hill and a couple of strong suggestions for Mighty Potter, and we'll see which one of us manages to get the week off to a good start. Next up is the Arkle. Jonjo, is Edwardstone going to win for the British?
I think so. I think he's done absolutely nothing wrong this year. I think it's very hard to oppose him, to be honest. Kingy's obviously won the Arkle before, and Blue Lord's been good. Apart from the rest of them, they've all been beaten this season. And I think the Blue Lord ran well in, I think was it the Supreme last year. He ran in and he fell at the last. But I think he's probably got a little bit to find at the minute with Edwardstown. Just what he's beaten in England, I think is probably just a bit more. He's the one I'd want to ride in the race anyway.
Okay, and it looks like there might be a fair bit of pace on it for Pleasure Goes and Magic Days and Riviere de Tel. They might all set some decent fractions up front. Do you think that pace will help Edwardstone, Ben, or are you with somebody else?
I think you're looking at a Willie Mullins horse there that's 3 from 3 over fences and has won a Grade 1. The Irish Arkle is never really a great trial for the English Arkle, but he's a fantastic horse. He was going to run well around Cheltenham last year when he fell. Edwardstone has won by impressive margins, things like that, but you see that quite often going to Cheltenham, and I just can't have him for what he's done. He's done it impressively, but he's not beaten much. I just don't think he's as good as Blue Lord.
Is that something you agree with, or are you with Jonjo again, Will?
I think Edwardstone has improved this year. I think he looks, he's definitely improved for a fence. He's looked very, very solid. Blue Lord and River Tatel, they're very difficult to split. There was only half a length between them the last day.
Well, she's getting less weight this time from Blue Lord than the last time.
She's getting less weight, but kind of threw. Some would say she kind of threw it away, didn't she? At the last, was it?
Yeah, he's £2 better off this time.
Yeah, but I'd say she lost more than £2 with what she did the last day too. So I think they're very difficult to split. So I think it's a very, very competitive race between those 3. Blue Lord, he's another son of Blue Brazil, same as Constitution Hill. He's improved a lot this year. He's a year younger than Edwardstone. He was quite keen last year. He looked a more mature horse this time, and he could just be improving. But again, River de Tel, she's even younger. She's 5-year-old. So, I'm split. My kind of heart says I'd like England. I'd like the Brits to get a winner with Edwardstone. I'm torn over this one, to be totally honest.
So you all think
I've got each way shout for you.
Yeah, go on. Who have you got?
Curse Sublime. I think he'll run. I think he could run well.
I'm hoping he's going to go pitch up in one of the handicaps.
No, he's supposed to be turning up in the Arkle.
I think he goes in this.
The owner wants to run in the Arkle. Apparently, Henry wants to run him in one of the handicaps. Well,
I hope Henry gets his way, unlike Gordon looks like he's had to cave into the O'Learys over conflated. So I'm going to be a bit of a, I guess, fly in the ointment again. I really fancy, although he did fall in the Irish Arkle, Horton Colours. I thought he was probably the best hurdler of these lot. His run before the Irish Arkle, he beat a horse called Gentleman de Me, who's now gone and won, albeit only 2 Grade 3s, but he's won them by 34 lengths and 16 lengths. And I just think, compared to those 3 who you can kind of pick holes in all of them, although he unseated a rider last time, it wasn't a fall, it was an unseat. And I just think he's definitely the value. And St. Sam, I'm really hoping they're actually going to put him into the Marsh, because I think he's a stayer in the making, but who knows what Willie's going to do. And that brings us on to the first handicap, where we've got the Ultima. So we'll just do quick kind of best bet for each of them, and who are you going with, Will?
Oh, just 2 seconds. Go to somebody else first.
So that means he's not done enough research. So we'll start with you, Ben.
I actually like Kim Bailey's horse in this, to be fair. I know it's the favourite, but you're looking at his form. He loves nice ground. He's an Alcacide. They usually like improve on nice ground. His form's pretty good. You know, it's one of them handicaps that you can pick through. The Ultima's never been one of the best races for me. I always struggle in it. But Kim Bailey knows how to train a Cheltenham winner. I'd have faith in him. If he's turned up there with a favourite that's got some good form and some good ground, it's good enough for me. And it's a minefield from there on down. The Ultima, it's a minefield.
It's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why I said to go to somebody else first.
It's traditionally been a British race, but do you think kind of this Irish tax that's almost been imposed on the Irish horses mean that we're going to see so many more Irish runners in the handicaps that actually it might backfire a bit, and they just end up with so many more runners that things like the Ultimate that have always kind of tended to go to the British might go to the Irish this year instead. And off that, my selection is actually, if he runs, he's entered in quite a few of these, is Fury Road. He's a graded horse. He's got not a bad mark at all. This will be the kind of first time he's stepped up to 3 mile 1 over fences. He smashed Run Well Fred. And I just think that he's the value pick. And alongside Henry Daly's horse, Fortescue, who I hope gets into the Grand National. He'll be my Grand National pick if he gets in, but I think they're really quite worried that he's a bit too low in the weights. Jonjo, who are you fancying?
Yeah, I'd agree. I don't think it's a great Ultima. Sometimes, you know, you've got some definitely graded horses up and coming. I do like Kim Bailey's horse. He's probably got plenty to do off 152, but he has been good all year. I think he likes nice ground. I think probably a little bit more at the bottom. I think he's been planned for the race for a bit. I've ridden him a couple times. Kilteely Briggs. Whether he is good enough, I'm not sure, but I think probably 20-1. I think he's solid, and he has been planned for this race for a good while. So, you know, he was second in a couple of Grade 2 novice chases last season. He's got plenty of experience now, so I think at 20-20 he's probably an each way shout.
Nice price there from Jonjo.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. I was a bit surprised when he won the last day at Musselburgh. I didn't think he would maybe have the pace to do that, so he actually pleasantly surprised me. So that's a good each way shout. I quite like Oscar Elite as well. He ran really well at the festival last year. Maybe that's heart ruling the head because I backed him each way last year. Fortescue, again, heart overhead. Hugh Nugent started his race riding career with us, so that'd be a great one to see him go well. I'd love to see that. And Fakir Delen, although he might be going on the Friday, might he?
Yeah, I think he might be.
Yeah. So I think I might fancy him later in the week. So yeah, but and also the favourite or second favourite, Does He Know? Obviously, English point-to-point recruit. I think David Easterby actually bred him, or the Easterbys bred him. Be good for the support the English point scene as well if he went and won.
Okie dokie. Now we go on to what could be argued is one of the bankers of of the whole festival in the champion hurdle. And is this case done and dusted before it started, Jonjo? Is Honeysuckle just by far the best, and she will win no matter what turns up?
Yeah,
she definitely is by far the best. And she's one of them mares, I suppose a bit like a Enable and stuff. She's getting £7 when she really doesn't need it. So, she's got everything in her favour. I think the only thing is probably that what she has beaten, she's been beating kind of the same horses all year in the last probably 18 months down here and stuff like that. She is definitely having her hardest race, I think, in the 2 mile division. I think Appreciate It, he was a monster last year. Probably he won a bad Supreme, but he put them to bed very easy. And I wouldn't be worried about him not having a run in this year. He's done it with a few horses. Quavega, obviously, and Album Photo only races once a year before the Gold Cup. So he's a monster. And I just think if there is anything going to beat her, he's going to put it to her. But I still think that, she's still going to pull it out of the bag. I think Tiapu is a interesting horse, probably not good enough, but I think he's interesting in the race as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on the last point, Tiapu. I think we don't know how he's the one horse along with Appreciate It, I think, where we can confidently say we don't know how good he is. He's 5 out of 6 from in Ireland. And I think from what you hear Gordon Elliott say about him, he doesn't show anything at home. And he just keeps on showing it on the racecourse, and he's getting better and better each time. Is Honeysuckle the banker, Will, or are you going to be tipping up Appreciate It?
I look, if she turns up in the right form, then she should be. Again, I was at Fairyhouse when she had her first run of the season this year. And the feeling was when she'd won that race last year that she probably, Ronald Pump gave her a scare and that she probably wasn't quite tuned up. Well, she felt very much tuned up that day, and the reception she got and the performance she put in was pretty amazing. And then actually the last day, maybe she wasn't quite so impressive, and there's been questions over the form of Henry's horses. So she should be. Appreciate It, as Jonjo said, is very interesting. Like, he absolutely was pretty dominant last year, and he looked a bit of a monster. So, what's he going to do? But we haven't seen him. So, I personally, just as a rule, I'd be kind of steering clear of that. And yeah, Tiapu, he's 5 years old. It's his first run in a Grade 1. It could be anything. He's by a sire I love in Mass Marvel. And we've just bought his half sister, so hopefully he goes and wins it.
Fingers crossed for you. And how about this, Ben? One of the people watching, John Ismay, has said, don't underestimate Not So Sleepy to grab a place at 80-1. Is there anyone's like Not So Sleepy that you think might get a place at a bigger price?
He could get a place. I'm not sure he's good enough to win, but he could get a place.
Yeah, he's probably not good enough to win. He'll make the running for a little while, give Honeysuckle a lead, probably to the top of the hill, and then she'll probably cruise on by and kick on and win the champion hurdle like she should. The only interesting thing was that Tiapu, when it won round Goran, he did quicken up pretty smartly. And Robbie Power supposed to have got off it and said that he hated the ground. For a horse to quicken up the way he did round Gore on heavy ground and not enjoy it, takes a fair animal to do that. And some of them young horses that take a bit of thrashing early doors and then turn up at Cheltenham, they can sometimes turn up and run well above expectations. So I wouldn't underestimate Tiapu, but if Honeysuckle does turn up, she's formidable.
Yeah, I think he has really improved with every run, hasn't he? Quite remarkably, which is exciting. But to come there, give £7 to Honeysuckle, surely it can't happen. But
she won around Leopardstown. She put the race to bed off the home bend, then she idled all the way up the straight. I mean,
that's what she does, isn't it?
When you race horses, it brings them on fitness-wise. And when she's idling up the home straight, is she really putting her best foot forward? Not really. It's still, she still probably will turn up and win it. But, you gallop horses, you run them to bring them on. Sometimes you like them to have a race because it puts you 100%, where you are. I mean, Leopardstown, similar to Cheltenham, if she turns up, she wins. But I would be watching that Tiapu for sure. You know, like some Mass Marvel as well. They do seem to like better ground, I think, as well. So
sounds like it's going to be an Irish domination. We don't think we're going to have the fairy tale Tommy's Oscar do it.
That'd be nice.
That'd be a great story, wouldn't it? On the first day, and you never know. At 33-1, he might outrun his odds. The mares race. Well, I guess there's only one place we can start here, and that's with you, Will. Is Stormy Island going to continue your luck since you bought her from the sales and sent her back to Willie's?
Well, we hope so. Obviously, they're happy with her. With the co-owners, Dave and Ross, they went over there last week to see her. Unfortunately, I couldn't make that trip, and the reports were all good. She's in good form. You know, she won obviously a grade 2 against the boys for his first time out, having had a bit of time off after coming from Paul's. Then she won that easily. Then she goes and absolutely batters, dominates and wins easy, the grade 1 in Punchestown. And then she actually ran on the flat, finished second, and the horse that beat her ended up being a listed horse. So we were a bit disappointed at the time, but probably the best thing that could have happened. We put her away. Then she obviously was just far too keen the first day at Fairy House this year when Honeysuckle won, and just blew her chances early doors, and then came out at Cheltenham and put in another sort of almost faultless round and won at Cheltenham again in a grade 2 against the boys. For some reason, people seem to think Brewing Up a Storm was the winner. That always seems to be the way when one falls upsides at last. Yet she hadn't been off the bridle, and anyway, Danny thought either way it would have been very close. And he's kind of franked the form since. So I think, without looking, I'm not the type of person to look through rose-tinted spectacles, but she's got such solid form. I can't really, hopefully she goes and does it. And I think she's a good price at 5. It's what's she 5.5, 6 to 1. I think she's a great price.
Okay, so which one of you two is gonna make Wolsey realistic and give him the true winner of the race? Go on, Jonjo. Who's gonna win?
I think Concertista.
Okay. Is she not going to go for the mare's chase, do we think?
Is she? Well, she is, then that's fine.
Yeah.
Queen's Brook, I think, is interesting. I've followed her since her point days. And she's progressively just gone up the ranks, and I think she's probably the one I can see. I'm not sure about Tell Me Something Girl. I don't know. She's been beat a lot. I know she won the Cheltenham last year, but she's been beat on all 3 starts. Doesn't scream out favourite for the mare's hurdle to me, but might be wrong.
And where do you land, Ben?
Tell Me Something Girl. I think Henry's had this race in mind for us since last year. What she did last year in race was magnificent. And if Henry wants to win this race again with the one that won it last year, I don't see he'll have much of a problem. Stormy Island, I was at Cheltenham when she won. She was quite impressive. I just felt it wasn't the strongest race. There's something about that mare. I don't know why. She's done nothing wrong, but I just never really seem to take to her. I'm not.
Is it
sure.
because she runs from the front all the time? Is that what it is? So everybody is quite quick to say, "Oh, she got an easy lead."
Probably, yeah, because she makes races fall apart.
Yeah,
and that's probably why they look like they fall apart, because she just takes them from the front and drags them out. So
yeah, I think she doesn't. We kind of feel as owners that she actually doesn't really get the credit she deserves. And all I would say is, anyone go and watch the grade 1 that she won at Punchestown. Okay, it's the end of the season and she was quite a fresh horse, but you will never see I tell you now, if she puts in that performance that she put in at Punchestown, she'll win, because she was faultless. Like, she pinged every hurdle. And I think at Cheltenham on New Year's Day, she just met one slightly wrong down the bottom of the hill. But what she did this time was she let the horses come to her. And Danny actually said, she was way more settled, and she's kind of almost more adaptable and almost easier to ride, and not such a one-trick pony. And he could get a breather into her. Like the first time out at Fairy House, he said absolutely just couldn't get a breather in. Went to take a pull, she just carted him. So maybe she's only 8. Maybe she has matured. So it's it's an open race, and it's not a stronger race as there has been in the past. So and she's run well in the race before. So yeah, she's got a great chance, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm with Jonjo on this race. I think Queensbrook is the one to beat. I loved her last run. I thought it was the perfect prep, and I can see her turning tables with Burning Victory, especially now she's better off at the weights. And I actually think Stormy Island going from the front, I think there'll be plenty who will contest that, and I think it will set it up perfectly for Queensbrook to come and nab her on the hill. And we've got the Boodles Fred Winter next up. Where are you putting your money, Ben?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, you can go if you've got one lined up.
Right, I'm going to go for a couple of sort of outside bit of value. Saint Seagal of Jane Williams's. Very impressive when he won at Bangor. Then he was beat by Porticello of Gary Moore's, who's looked very good. I think I think he runs in the Triumph.
Yeah.
So I think that could go well. In these kind of races, I always look for sort of in any of the handicaps, you kind of look for skeletons do well, pipes traditionally, and obviously Jonjo O'Neill. So skeletons have got too friendly. And Jonjo, what about yours? Petit Tonnerre, does that?
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed with his performance at Market Raisin. At declaration stage, I think he had good form in France, so I think he kind of scared everything off. He was 135, only 108 and 112 horse declared. He was getting 10 or 11 pounds because it was a handicap and he was a 4-year-old. And although he got the job done in the end, he took a while to get going and he was stuck in the mud a little bit there. The ground was quite rough that day and he didn't jump that well. And I just thought you need to be, especially around that tight track in a big field handicap 4-year-olds, you can't miss a beat. And he missed quite a lot in the 3-runner race. So I was a bit disappointed. He didn't scream out to me like that was a Fred Winter performance. But listen, I could be wrong. His French form is strong, but he's going to have to improve an awful lot. And I think he's still got a bit to prove, to be honest. And they put him up £3 for his win at Market Raisin, which I thought was harsh because, you know, he was entitled to do it, getting £10, and he only just did it. So I couldn't say he's particularly well handicapped.
Have you seen a different horse though since then? That's what I was going to ask. You know, I agree with everything you say there, but is he a different horse after that race or not? Is there, you know,
he's a horse that actually never shows anything at home at all. To be honest, we're a bit disappointed with him right up until before he ran, because his wins had looked good in France, but he's quite workmanlike at home. But he definitely did come more alive on the track, and he has done a little bit since. But yeah, nothing to say out of the ordinary. But he's sharpened up a bit. I think it'll be interesting. I don't know if they're going to run Phildor and Pied Piper in the Triumph or run 1 and 1. And I think whatever they do, if they do end up running 1 and 1, I would be definitely siding with the one he runs in the Boodles, because I think they're both Grade 1 horses. And I think one of them won't have problem carrying top weight in a handicap if it's a Grade 1 horse.
Gaelic Warrior seems to be a talking horse, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's got the form in France, and I think based on his French ratings, he should be rated 136 or 139, and he's actually only got a rating of 129, and he's been working well. So, but you've never seen him; he's never run in the UK. Would that be a massive concern for you, Ben?
No. Paul Nicholls has done it before. Bought horses out of France, run him in the Fred Winter off their French mark. It's a good way of doing it. Willie's giving it a go. I think Paul Nicholls did it a few years ago with one for...
Yeah.
I can't remember what the owner's called. Sorry?
Johnny House. Petit Swan.
I can't remember if he got beat a nose or won a nose.
I think he just won, yeah.
Yeah.
It was his first run.
It's a good way of doing it. You know, other than that, with the Fred Winter, you know, it's a bit of a minefield. On the day, look for something with some good form, some experience. That's a big thing. You're talking about youngsters, not the best of them either. 2 miles around Cheltenham's a sharp track. I wouldn't go through the race very much, but I have had a couple of people tell me about Jonjo's horse. So, whether you're keeping it for the Fred Winter, I don't know. But I was at Chepstow when Santiago was second. The ground that day was horrendous. It was a real war of attrition that day. He turned up at Warwick and won round Warwick like he should have done. He might be the class animal in the race. Jane Williams does very well with their juveniles as well. Wouldn't be surprised to see that win. He could be well enough what he's done. He's effectively won a Grade 2 bar a Grade 1 horse. And yeah, other than that, you look for something with a bit of experience and a bit of pace, some good form and nice weight, good jockey. It's a minefield of a race. But the class will probably be Science again.
Yeah, I'd agree it's a minefield, and that's where my selection, I think I've gone more from a punting perspective, looking at what I think is overpriced, because I do think the race revolves around Gaelic Warrior, and if he's as well in as he apparently is, then he'll just dot up. The one I like at a much bigger price, and I don't understand why he's this price, is Iberique de Sol. So one of Gordon's horses for the Morans. Last time I looked, he was about 25s. The reason I think he's massively overpriced is Britska, another horse of Gordon's who's been well touted. He beat Britska off the same weight. He's now carrying £4 less than Britska, and he's double the price of that horse. No, I can't see why that is the case. He lost to Luna Power only by 4 3/4 lengths. He's now £11 better off with that horse. And he beat Champion Green off level weights, and he's only £1 worse off now. I just don't understand why he's such a big price compared to the others. I think he's one that's kind of been missed a little bit. So he'd be my tentative selection. And that brings us nicely on to the National Hunt Cup. Who's going to win this, Will?
Statler, hopefully.
Okay, nice and easy.
He's in my 10 to 5.
I'd agree with Will as well.
2 nice easy ones. Ben, is it Statler all round?
Vanilla, if he gets his jumping back together,
Yep.
He's supposed to. If I can remember what someone was telling me about him. Was it him? I can't remember. I was told one of Gavin Cromwell's worked really well and supposed to have worked with American Mike around Fairy House, I think it was. If his jumping comes back together, he's the force he reckoned with. He's now the Bartlett winner.
Do you think that could happen back at Cheltenham, back on decent
ground?
ground?
On better ground, yeah. You wouldn't put it beyond him. One Wild Fred, he's the talk horse of Ireland for the staying race. He's the solid option. But I like Statler, and he'd got to be the one I'd be on as well.
Key's going to be the jockeys, is it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. My biggest concern with Statler actually is he's by Stowaway, and it's a 3 mile 6 race. Well, they're not renowned for staying distances.
I don't like Statler.
I'm a bit, but I do like the horse, and that's why I've gone with him. Obviously,
I think if he wasn't Willie Mullins, he'd be a much bigger price. I actually fancy Pat's Fancy.
Yeah,
and I've been told that Barry O'Neill's going to ride it. So, really good jockey from Ireland. He was really progressive in 2 runs. Then he bumped into Brave Man's Game, who's going to be going for a Grade 1. I just really like his profile for this. I think it could be one for the British there.
Yeah, he's definitely the strongest of the British contenders in there. See him win wouldn't be a surprise.
Okie dokie. That's day 1 done nicely, and that brings us on to the Ballymore on Wednesday. Looks like Sir Gerhard's going to be going here. Surely it's his race, particularly now it would appear that Ginto is going to go for the Albert Bartlett as well. So are kind of people running scared of him, or is there anybody who's going to give him a race, do we think?
I think everyone's running scared of him, to be fair. He should win if he turns up.
Where does Journey with Me go?
Here. Looks like definitely going here from what Henry said.
Big that. Really like that horse.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Sir Gerhard could be a machine, but at the prices,
he's gone down the same route as Bob Ollinger. He won the same bumper that Henry run Bob Ollinger in, and he won the same race last time out that Bob Ollinger won before going to Cheltenham. So, that's a bit of a giveaway.
Do you think Sir Gerhard's going to stay, Jonjo? Do you think he'll handle the 2.5 mile, or do you think they've made a mistake here and he should be running in the Supreme?
No, I think he'll definitely stay. The champion bumper winner. I think their stay is really. I think they all end up being 3 milers, to be honest, on the whole. But he's just a very good galloper, and I think he'll have no problem, and I think he'll definitely win.
Yeah, I'd agree. He's going to be hard to beat. I do really like Journey with Me, and I think I'm so confident on this race. I think you could have those two coming first, second, and I think 3 Stripe Life will finish third. I think that'll be the 1, 2, 3. Anybody disagree with?
Colonel Mustard might run okay.
Who's that? Will
Colonel Mustard might run okay. He's 33-1.
Is he?
He ran all right. Okay, behind Jean Bon, didn't he? Where was that at Sandown or wherever it was?
Ascot,
yeah, he's got a few entries. I think I quite fancy him for one of the handicaps.
Yeah, he's a nice horse.
Yeah. So Ballymore, nice and easy. That brings us to what I think could possibly be, depending on who turns up, one of the best races, the Brown Advisory. I guess, do we think Galopin is going to come here, or do we think he's going to go for the Marsh? I would say it looks like he might be going for the Marsh.
Yeah, he's supposed to be going for 2.5.
Yeah. And then we've got Brave Man's Game, L'Empresse, etc. Who is going to win this, Jonjo?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very, very good race. I really do like Ahoy Senor, but he just needs to get his jumping. He needs a real good clear round. Brave Man's Game, his forte is his jumping. I think Ahoy Senor is a little bit sporadic at times and a little bit on the front end. But I really do like him. And if he did get a clear round and settled and everything, I know it'd be nice for Lucinda Russell to have a winner as well. But I think he's a very, very good horse. When he ran at Newbury in November, I was seriously impressed with him.
Do you agree, Ben, or do you think Brave Man's Game is going to win?
I couldn't fancy Brave Man's Game. He's one of them horses. I don't think he finds that much at the end.
I'd agree. I'd really agree with you. I think Harry's holding on to not much.
Yeah, I mean he jumped the last 4 lengths clear of Pat's Fancy, and he finished 4 lengths clear of Pat's Fancy. He didn't pull away like he was a much better horse, and Pat's Fancy's running in the National Hunt Chase.
But isn't Nichols to be commended for putting him in a handicap, carrying a massive weight against those horses, though?
Yeah, I always think when they run them in the handicap, they've an easier option run the handicap, because I don't think in a race like that, weight makes as much of a difference. Like he's by far superior to all of them. I didn't think he was very impressive the last day at all. I thought he would have done it with his head in his chest. That would be my worry about him as well in this race, I think.
Okay, so we're writing Brave Man's Game off, it seems like, so far. Oh no, Will's shaking his head. Will's possibly a Brave Man's Game fan then. So who are you with, Jonjo and Ahoy Senor, Ben, or are you fancying something else?
I do really like Ahoy Senor. I think he's a bit of an unpolished diamond, though. Still quite raw. I really liked him. I saw him at the sales. He's actually bred by a sort of friend and colleague of mine, Don Constable, and he took him to the Doncaster, or the Goffs Yorton sale, and I saw him there, and I liked him. He's by a very uncommercial siren, Dylan Thomas. Again, it's actually a stallion that I quite like, but he is just quite raw. And I think this race is a bit frustrating. It could be like you said, it could be a great race, but these horses have got other entries in the Turners or wherever. And, I want to know what's running now so we can talk about it, because I love Venetia's horse, L'Homme Press. I think he's looked really impressive. Galloping Deschamps, obviously, is odds-on favourite. Brave Man's Game, what I love about Brave Man's Game is he's such a good jumper.
Yeah.
And he goes through a race effortlessly, makes jumping look very easy, and that's a massive asset to have, obviously, especially around Cheltenham. And I really hope I hope he puts it up to them. Yeah, I think he's. I love to see a really good jumper, and he is that. He's the best jumper of a fence this side of the water in terms of novices, I think.
I think I've got another one for you. You mentioned him in passing there, and he's the one. The only worry for me is that Venetia came out and said that some of her horses have a cough, but I absolutely love Lompressa here.
Yeah.
I think of the 3 horses at the near the top of the market, I think he's got by far the most solid claims, and for me, the only doubt is it seems like he's going to come here. Venetia said that they're aiming more for the 3 mile, and it's just whether there's that cough kind of puts you off. But given his price compared to the other 2, I think he's got better form than them, to be perfectly honest. And the way he jumps, there's nothing you can knock him for. I think he's got all the answers. And the other one I quite like is Capodanno for Willie Mullins. I love the profile. He's been crying out for 3 miles, in my opinion. He's been running over shorter trips, and I think he will be. If he might be my bet of the race, given that it concerns me that Venetia Williams. I don't think anybody would have said her horses were out of form if she hadn't come and said they've got a cough, and that just really quite concerns me in the build-up.
She had raised the bar very high before that, hadn't she? To be fair,
Yeah.
Let's get a 30-40% strike rate or whatever. Jonjo, what do you think about Lompresse?
Will he go for the 2.5? No.
No,
He's avoiding galloping the Champs, I think.
Is he really? Right. Okay.
Venetia, because they went over 2. I think they went over 2.6, and she said because the Turners is over 2.3.5 that it makes much more sense to go up to 3. So he looks pretty nailed on for the Brown Advisory.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I've liked him. I think he was very impressive at Exeter, and then when he went to Ascot and Cheltenham, he looked like into a proper graded horse. And then he got the job done at Sandown. I think he was entitled to probably win that race. But I think I would have him and a Hoyt-Newell ahead of Braveman's Game anyway.
Interesting. Do you think 3 miles is the right trip for Braveman's Game, or do you think he should be running in the 2.5?
I don't know. I do agree what everyone was saying about not sure how much he finds off the bridle, but Nichols is fairly adamant he is a 3 miler, so he gets it right more times he gets it wrong.
Yeah.
What a 3 mile point.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Next, we have another handicap.
Go back to the Turners. I think one of my favourite bets, or the Browns race, one of my favourite actually bets of the week is in that race as well.
Oh, is it?
Beacon Edge.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Why do you think?
Well, he killed himself off last year going with Florian Porter in the Albert Bartlett. That finished his race off. If he'd have been ridden for a place, he'd have been a nice second, but he didn't. He tried to go with Florian Porter. His second last time out was much better form. His fall behind Galloping Champs is what it is. But he's no Mead horse turning up back at Cheltenham where he runs well in a novice chase. And you can look at what you want about him, but I think he is probably one of the darker horses in the race. I think he's pretty straightforward. If it comes up soft ground, L'Homme Press wins. I think that's straightforward. But Beacon Edge, I think, is in there with a massive each way chance. He is one of my favourite bets for the week, for sure.
I like Broussard as well each way. He's followed last year. He's very interesting. He's so lightly raced. Looks a lovely horse.
It's one of the more interesting races.
I think it's a pretty decent race with plenty of depth in it then.
Yeah.
So it's going to take
an open race. It's an open race. Open novice. It's a nice race.
Well, Dusart beat Soaring Glory on his debut.
Yeah.
So what's that tell you, Jonjo?
He's a good one. he was very. I remember him that day. He was very impressive. So I think that Newbury novice has worked out fairly good. There's some decent ones in behind as well. And Soaring Glory had a penalty that day, but it wouldn't have mattered. Like the way he jumped the last and really powered the line on his first ever run, I thought was really, really impressive. And yeah, I forgot about him. He could be interesting.
He was then his second start. He was only just beaten behind Belfast Banter at Aintree. So,
yeah, he's
he
definitely unfurnished at the minute. Yeah, very.
Well, so got some serious options there then. Next up, we've got the Coral Cup. Any strong fancies for this, Ben?
No.
I think, right, okay.
I'll find something, but the Coral Cup, the County Hurdle, the Fred Winter, they're all races that are just, I just try and find something on the day for, because they are just minefields. But just going back, looking at the comments, Steve Harris mentioned Stage Star for the Ballymore, and you'll know why I'm saying this, Tom, but he won that race at Newbury at Christmas, and he was, I don't know if he was beating, I think he was beating one of my horses, and I really like my lad. And Stage Star travel.
So that's party business for everybody.
Party business, yeah.
I'm not so sure that. I think if Party Business had stayed up, I think he would have given him one hell of a run for his money.
He'd have given him a run for his money, and that's what makes me just. I like Stage Star because he was giving my lad a good run, and my lad's a fair animal. On that day he turned up, he was a fair animal.
Is Party Business going to Cheltenham, or are you keeping him for Aintree?
He's in the Martin Pipe and he is in the Coral Cup. He's laid back, lazy, cocky, confident. He is what he is. He didn't turn up at Warwick, so I think we over-raced him a little bit, to be fair, with his Ascot novice win, then straight to Newbury. But he's back in good form, and if he gets in, he'll run a huge race. He's got an engine. He finishes his races off. He is a real arrogant, cocky athlete. I'd probably like to see him go to Aintree for something, or somewhere that's a nice galloping track. Cheltenham might just catch him off a little bit because he's too laid back, cocky, and confident. He's just an athlete. So if he gets in, fancy him because he's a proper horse. But so just Stage Star, he is something I would definitely be considering because he was.
No, I've already given you the 1, 2, 3 in the Ballymore. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I just saw someone comment out Stage Star, and
Colin's actually just commented, and he's flagged up a horse who I was going to flag up in this race. If he runs, I think it's a big if, because I think Henderson might run him in the Ballymore or the Albert Bartlett, and that's I Am Maximus off a mark of 134, I think. I think he's run some serious races just behind Hillcrest and stuff. I would really quite like him if he went into this race. What about you, Will? Have you got anybody you fancy?
Not really. St. Felician, maybe, of Gordon's. Finished second in a Grade 3 last time out, behind Durasso. He's only 5. Again, I try and look for unexposed horses, improvers. So, maybe him each way.
Okie dokie. And Jonjo, have you got any thoughts?
For which race is this? Sorry, Tom?
The Coral Cup.
Coral. I think whatever race Stateland goes in will be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's entered up everywhere. I think he's got 5 entries, is he?
Yeah.
Ruby's given him some high praise. Says that he's much better than his mark in the cup previews.
So I think he's interesting. I really like Sam Thomas's Good Risk at All as well. When he won at Ascot, Charlie Deutsch rode Skytastic, I think, won a novice, and Good Risk won a handicap. And I think I got the feeling he much preferred this fella in the handicap. So I think 137 is probably still workable. Weight off 10.9 if they all run. I think I think he won't be far away. He was a very good bumper horse. They really liked him as a bumper horse last year, and he was second to John Byrne earlier in the year, and took a while to get the hang of things. But I thought he was impressive the other day.
I'd agree. I think his price has possibly gone a little bit because he's been so well tipped up. I'm also not sure because he's got such a good mark, I'm not sure he's going to get into some of the handicaps. I think he's only got a mark of 132, I think, or something like that. So he might struggle to get in. But from the Irish, what about Drop the Anchor, Will? Is that one you fancy? He was really eye-catching last time out, or have you got a different fancy?
Look, he's a Peter Fahey horse. I'm tipping up one of his later. Okay. His record speaks for itself. So, you've got the likes of Peter Fahey, Emmett Mullins, the usual suspects, and people are going to latch on to those types.
Just going back to that Sam Thomas horse, I've been watching that lad, and he always looks like the horse. I mean, when he was second to John Bon at Newbury, he did nothing wrong. He just come up against John Bon. When we turned up at Warwick, he looked like a horse that wanted 2.5 and just travelled like the absolute winner, but just got outpaced by a genuine 2-miler. Then when he turned up at Ascot, softer ground, more of a stamina track, he did seem to go well. Now stepping him up now to 2-mile 5 if he gets into this race from 2-mile 3, I think it was at Ascot. He's always looked like the horse that travels like a 2-miler, but wants 2.5. You know, when they let him down, he just keeps going. So hopefully a strong pace in that in the Coral Cup. But, you know, it's one of them races. 7-1 for him is short enough in a big race like this. I mean, Langer Dan of Skelton's is a nice horse. They dropped him a couple of pounds for his run round Taunton as well. So he'll
go in the Martin Pipe, won't he?
Will he go in the Martin Pipe?
Yeah, I think he'll go in the Martin Pipe. Yeah.
I would be interested in him wherever he goes.
Yeah. Certainly he seems to be teed up by the Skeltons for.
Yeah, Skelton's supposed to be leaving a lot of his fresh, but he actually gave this lad a spin round. So.
Well, he hadn't had a run before, had he? So I think he just needed a pipe opener for the Martin Pipe. Next up is another bank for lots of people, Shishkin. I have to say, if I was Willie Mullins, it might be a bit controversial, but I would be trying to set as slow a pace as possible here, because I think Energumene showed that if they go a proper gallop the whole way, Shishkin will outstay them up the hill. But for pure raw pace at the end, they might well do him if they manage to go slow enough up front. And one of the questions I have for you, Ben, I'll come to you, is where is the pace in this race? Is it going to be Politolog? You know, who else is going to make it?
You'd have to think Energumene's going to make it. There isn't going to be a lot else that's going to go with him over the first 4 or 5 fences. They rode him with a little bit of restraint at Ascot. I just felt they should have just slipped him on a bit more, but you know, I think a lot of people can think that sometimes. Shishkin made a bad mistake and was still able to pick him up in the home straight, and Energumene looked like he hadn't got anything left. If there was something amiss with him on the day, I thought Energumene was going to beat Shishkin at Ascot. You know, I couldn't see. I honestly couldn't see Shishkin beating Energumene, but he did, and he comes alive around Cheltenham. And if Energumene had beat Shishkin, I'd be sat here going, Energumene wouldn't get beat. But Shishkin beat him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again, which sounds silly. But the horse that I really like in the race, just because I'm not backing Shishkin at 4-6, because I wouldn't be surprised if Energumene beat him, is Nuba Negra. You know, he's a proper stalwart for this. He is fast. He loves a strong pace. I really like the idea that Skelton's trying to send his horses there fresh. I've always thought Skelton's horses turn up fit as a flea first time up, and then their racing just knocks them back and back and back. So the fact he's trying to take them there fresh, to me, I love that idea for him. And Nuba Negra is one speedy horse. And if Shishkin tries to chase Energumene, and maybe Energumene falls in the hole, Shishkin falls in the hole, or one of them does Nuba Negra at 10-1, I can't see that being out the first 3, you know, to be fair.
What about for Will? Lots of people have said, you know, kind of Shishkin's almost too short, given that it was only a length, and actually they're coming back in trip. You know, they're almost a furlong shorter, and if you go back a furlong in that race, Energumene's, you know, well on top. What do you think is going to take the beating? Is it going to be Shishkin all day, or are we going to see either Energumene or what about Chakan? You know, Willie seems to have so much faith in him. You know, he came out and said that if he was Paul, he would be riding Chakan. So, you know, should we be listening to him?
Right. Well, if all horses turned up fit and well, and if Chakan Poursoir put in the form he puts in Ireland, the Irish Chakan, if that race between Shishkin and Energumene hasn't left a mark on either of those two, and Nuba Negra's there, we're in for one hell of a race. But there's lots of ifs. That's my worry with this race. Shishkin, I thought Shishkin at Christmas at Kempton was unbelievable for his first run of the season, because I think there was a few worries beforehand, and the performance he put in there was incredible. And then that race against Energumene was just, it was so good, but it was a bit brutal maybe. And I hope that's left nothing, because we could be in for a great spectacle. Shotgun, I love. I think he's unbeatable in Ireland, but that's in Ireland. He kind of jumps one way a little bit and kind of skewers a bit, and whether it's the travelling, Willie said that he is going to leave him a work short. Hasn't he said something like that to travel him over? He says, which is fascinating, really. So
says he's trained him differently this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's going to leave, compared to all his other horses, he's going to do one piece of work less with Shotgun than he would do with all the others because they lose weight when they're traveling over or whatever. So, yeah, it should be Shishkin's.
Who would you ride, Jonjo? Who's going to win? Who would be your ride?
Yeah, definitely Shishkin. I think it's going to be very interesting to see who Paul will ride.
If you were Paul, who would you go? Would you go for Energumen or Chakan?
Energumen's got a length to find, really, hasn't he? And Chakan doesn't really bring his best form to England. I think Nubra Negra is a great bet at 10-1 to have Shishkin and him first and second or something. Apart from that, can't really. I think put the kettle on. She always does love Cheltenham and does come back at this time of year. She gave another surprise last year, and I'm not saying she's good enough to win. She hasn't been in the champion chase as good as this, but she always does seem to give a running at this time of year. I don't think the lack of pace, if Paul decided to steady the race up, would be a problem because Nico is very good tactically, and I think he would force it to suit Shishkin.
You think he would go on with Shishkin then?
Yeah, I think he would go upside Paul and force it to how he wants it. I would be very, very surprised if the result got turned around because of the pace of the race. Nico's not that stupid.
Oh, he might make Nico look silly if he doesn't now.
No, I think he gets on with him great. He knows him very well. He's had so much success around Cheltenham the last probably 6-7 years, and I do think something's going to have to go wrong for Shishkin probably for him to get beat, I'd imagine. Okay,
so just to summarise quickly, you're with Shishkin. Will, are you with Shishkin as well? And Ben, you're with?
I'm Nubra Negra each way, I think.
Nubra Negra each way. Okie dokie. That sounds good. Surely the next race is done and dusted. We can move on. Tiger Roll wins, doesn't he?
Easy land.
Cross country? Tiger Roll, cross country? Surely.
Yeah, can we listen to Jonjo, please?
Come on, Jonjo.
No, it's only for the small ears. So. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I think Tiger Roll. I would much rather Tiger Roll as a banker at 5-4 than Honeysuckle at 4-7.
Are you going to ride Easyland, Jonjo, or?
Yep, I think so.
How is he?
He's in good form. Yeah, he's not easy to train, and he's not the most enthusiastic at home. But we've taken him to Cheltenham the last couple of times, and he went to Newbury there the other weekend, and it has definitely sparked him up a good bit. But it needed to, his 2 runs. They were over hurdles and over 2.5. They weren't good. So he does have to really step up. But I am looking forward to riding him. I think the cross country race does bring out a different type of horse, and it certainly seemed to rejuvenate him when he went there the last couple of weeks. But he's obviously got a lot to find still.
Because when he's won around there in the past, he's not always been the greatest jumper. Been a bit untidy, and I know you can get away with that round there. Funnily enough,
yeah, he's not very big. He's tiny. When he first came, I thought it was a store. When he first came, and he's over hurdles and stuff. He feels like he's got no scope, but he is actually quite sure of himself, especially over the cross country jumps, of what he can and can't do. So yeah, the jumping side of it wouldn't be a problem to me. But obviously he's got 2 P's to put past his name.
Cool. What about you, Ben? Are you with Tiger Roll or are you with Jonjo upsetting it with Easyland?
I didn't say we'd upset
it. Cross country race, usually look for something of Ender Bulgers. That's what my rule of thumb is. He's a master at it, and Probably my favourite of them would be Midnight Maestro. But I usually choose something of Ender Bulgers and follow it through all the way through to Punchestown, because if it doesn't win at Cheltenham, 9 times out of 10 it'll come out and it'll win at Punchestown. Be it one of JP's other horses that he's rejuvenated. So, Midnight Maestro. But I'm not backing Tiger Roll at 11 to 8. He's been there, done that, got the t-shirt, but 11 to 8 for a horse that can throw in some dodgy runs and sometimes doesn't always turn up. Maybe he's not going to the Grand National this year, so maybe they've G'd him up for this race. I don't know. But I'm not taking 11 to 8 for Tiger Roll. No chance.
What about Will Collins said? What about Diesel Dallier? Is he one you like, or are you against him and with something else?
I'd be for him because Richard Bandy's a great guy, so I'd love to see him have a Cheltenham Festival winner. But I'll be totally honest, the cross country race is a great spectacle. It's not something I'm particularly interested in otherwise than just watching it.
Okie dokie. We'll move quickly on then to the Grand Annual, where I really fancy one of Jonjo Senior's horses. I think Sky Pirate, who won it last year, I think ground coming good again. I've liked all of his runs this time. I think he's going to put up another really bold display. How's he been at home, Jonjo?
He's been in good form, Tom. Yeah, he has. He's got it all to find. I don't think the handicap has been very lenient with him. He's ran probably, I think, 5 times this season, and he's only dropped him £3. He's not a grade 1 horse. He's stuck really in the middle of things. He's been carrying top weights and handicaps, and then not quite up to the graded races. I think off 156 is quite steep. He will run well. He always does run well. I think the race suits him. But I think he might be vulnerable to some younger legs off probably 10 or 15 pound lower.
Okie dokie, really interesting. So who do you think will be one of those ones that might just scupper him?
I think Tizzards have got 2 interesting runners. Elected the Nuts, he's won his last 2. He's a grade 1 winner back in the past. He's had quite a lot of issues, I think. But I was quite impressed with him at Kempton when he won. Obviously a different kettle of fish now. And his other one, Amarillo Sky, he's been knocking on the door a few times, and he has won twice this season. I wanted him over hurdles at Newton Abbott last year, and I think he's a good, strong stayer over 2 miles. I think he'd get further, no problem. I think a race like that would suit him well.
Okie dokie. How about Embittered? He was the favourite last year. Do we think he's been overlooked by the market, Ben, or are you with something else?
I would be with Gumball.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he's a front runner. He's a hard as nails horse. I like him for this one. And the other horse, but he's carrying plenty of weight for me, if he turns up in this, is Andy Dufresne. Always liked that horse. Always followed him. Always thought he's a proper animal. Maybe he's just taking some time to come to himself. But when you see them horses that have got engines, he's always been one of them ones for me. Maybe this will be his day. I don't know. But it's a 2 mile handicap, chase around Cheltenham. Gumball, I think, is definitely the one to me that stands out. Cheltenham suits front runners is one of the reasons why I think Energame might overturn Shishkin. Different to Ascot, big time. So, Gumball.
Interesting. Will, who's your fancy for this?
Yeah, I think Jonjo's been looking at my notes again. Amarillo Sky was really impressive in the last day at Newbury. He's by Good Sire and Westerner. He's only 6. I just think he could be improving. He was really impressive at Newbury. He's got a nice weight. So he's a good price, 10 to 1. That's a good each way price. Time White, I've heard some stuff for him. And actually with Ben as well, Andy Dufresne's, he beat Embittered, didn't he?
Yeah.
I know he's obviously got to give weight, and he has got a lot of weight, but I agree, but I think he's looked like a graded horse, a proper sort of this is a handicap. he looks better than a handicapper or has done in the past. So he could be good enough. And yeah, those would be the two for me. And I'd be keeping one eye on also Nicholls' other horse, Il Redito. He's a horse that I quite like the look of, and he kind of lost his way a bit. So I'd be intrigued to see how he goes.
One of my selections, Ben's ruined already because he's told me that he's going for the Arkle. I would have really liked Curse Blind to.
It's not confirmed, but I would say he'll turn up in the Arkle if I had to have a guess.
Well,
Yeah,
I really hope you're wrong, and I hope he comes to the Grand Annual. I think he would have a really good chance off 151. I think his looking back at his form, his 4-length loss to Fernie Hollow looks so solid now. I would really fancy him off 151 alongside Sky Pirate. But I would reiterate to everybody that these handicaps definitely don't. I wouldn't be putting any money on any of them at this stage. Wait until the day you'll probably get 6, 7, 8 places, and with some firms over the course of it. Up next, we come to the Champion Bumper, and I'm gonna stick my colours to the mast here. I think there is going to be a massive bubble burst here. I think Facile Vega is going to be shown to be a bit of a hype horse. I know he was impressive, but his times were slower than Kilcrut last year if you're comparing them. And I just think that Willie's other horse, Redemption Day, here looks like a speed machine and is at the odds is one of my bets of the week. I think he's a proper machine. How about you?
Good lad, Tom. You're back in my good books.
Oh, I'll take that. Do you agree then, Will, or do you think the Facile Vega it could be the next coming, as it were, and is going to hold all before him?
Well, as the breeder or co-breeder of Redemption Day, I am obviously biased.
We know Ben's going to be biased.
I think Mullenbeg. I really hope Mullenbeg runs a big race with Milton Harris. Saw her win it.
I don't think she's going to run. She's running tomorrow at Sandown.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Ah, right. Damn.
So I don't think she's going to run. And I know Ben is going to be slightly same in your camp because he actually bought Redemption Day's half sister a few weeks ago. So presumably you're in Redemption Day's camp, are you, Ben?
Yeah. American Mike, there's a lot of good talk about him. I've watched him and he just looks, I might be silly right now. I think he looks too slow for a Champion Bumper. He's a big brute of a horse. And you say they look too slow, but if they G him up a bit and sling him from the front, they turn him into stamina tests. Facile Vega looks like a Champion Bumper horse should look. He quickens up at the drop of a hat for a big, long striding horse. He's done everything so well so far. I mean, I've been so impressed with that horse. Redemption Day is a little different. He has the pedigree to win a Champion Bumper. There's no doubt about that one. You didn't see the best of him around Leopardstown because he wasn't asked. But every time Facile Vega's mentioned, Redemption Day's name's thrown right on top of it and just said, look, Redemption Day.
I've noticed that every time Patrick's been asked about Facile, he said, and then obviously there is the rumours that when he pulled up on Facile Vega, Jamie Codd said, that's a machine, and he said, we've got one better at home.
Yeah, I mean, he basically said that in the interview afterwards. He wouldn't, every time they mentioned Facile Vega, he just wouldn't knock away Redemption Day. Redemption Day is out of a full sister Cheltenham. Cheltenham won a Champion Bumper. We had Big Brazil. We thought Big Brazil was a monster. Unfortunately, it was a problem-ridden monster, as some horses can be. Redemption Day, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a really good workhorse, and I do hope he wins the Champion Bumper, but Facile Vega looks like it has the profile. But 5-4 for a Champion Bumper,
it's way too short, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the two horses in there down the bottom, or down further down, say down the bottom, that I really quite like. One is Hugh Morrison's horse, our Jester. We beat that round Ludlow, one of our horses, a while ago. Well, come on, Kenny. He was quite a smart bumper horse on the day. He then went out and won at Ascot. He then came out, I think he was at Lingfield and bombed him round Lingfield. He looks quite a smart horse. He's a Garswood, though, which is a problem for me. But the one that I was quite impressed with, or two, one was Joyeuse Macan that won round. Where did he win round last time? I watched him win. It was Navan. I think he literally pushed his way through and upset one of ours, a horse called Tagman, who's a fair animal. He'll go to Punchestown for a bumper. But this lad was desperate to win on this. You know, he forced his way out and kicked it clear. And it didn't have a lot of time to kick clear, but it quickened clear and it won nicely. You know, he's 20-1. He's a big price for a horse like that. I mean, he's second to Facile Vega. He looked to improve for that when he went to Navan. And the other one is Poetic Music of Fergal O'Brien's, which we nearly bought at the sales. It's supposed to be a bit of a Fruit Loop, but she looks a talented Fruit Loop. But I mean, if I had to, I'd love to see Redemption Day and Facile Vega fight it out. I might be silly because I've just ruled out American Mike. But I would probably back Joyous Macan each way, to be fair. Just because I like Will, we got interested in the race anyway, so betting on it isn't a massive thing for me.
Jonjo, are we all talking rubbish? Is American Mike going to beat everything else?
Well, it's just me, not you.
I think Redemption Day. I think American Mike's a good horse, but I'm all over Redemption Day.
I would agree. I think Redemption Day will go very close, but he has only ran in the one. The other two have got a bit more experience. But I just think maybe just do them in a trifecta or something.
You think they'll finish top three? Do you think then?
I think I'd be very surprised if
you don't think
anything
Redemption Day is going to get in?
I would be surprised. I think they are stacked above everything else in the race at the minute.
Yeah, okie dokie. Well, that's the champion bumper. We all might be, well, most of us might be made to look a little bit silly. Ben put in a good word for Facile Vega, but hopefully we're all right and Redemption Day scoots on in. And that brings us nicely into Thursday and what could possibly be kind of almost a match race, it looks like, but it could be one hell of a match race. Bob Olinger versus Galopin Des Champs. Looks like they're both going to go here. And what a race this is going to be. Question is, who's going to win? Ben, we'll start off with you. Is it going to be Willie or is it going to be Henry? Or are you going to turn it and say it's going to be something else?
I think Willie. Galopin Des Champs has gone down the route which Willie tends to go down with some nice horses, and Gordon's done it before, the Martin Pipe conditional race. I actually backed him. I think he was 16-1 that day. A lad I used to know a long time ago, Sean O'Keefe, was riding him, and he cruised through the race and kicked clear. And he's been thrown over 3 miles, 2.5. I think from everything that I've heard through the grapevine, I think Willie really thinks a lot of this lad. A lot. Like, this could be a potential Gold Cup horse in time. And from what I'm told, I think he's going 2.5 instead of 3. Just
it looks like he
doesn't want to go the full 3 miles with him. He won over 3 miles the last day. I think he could be something that we'll be looking at next year and really excited about. I think he's a proper horse. Bob Olinger, I love the horse. I think he's a great horse. But a Galopin Des Champs, I'm very biased for. So that's me.
Jonjo, what are your thoughts? Are you with Ben and Galopin, or do you think Bob Olinger, who's already kind of won round here, same as Galopin, is actually still the value at the short odds that he is?
No, I think I'm going to agree with Ben. I think Bob Olinger is not as fluent jumping yet. I just love the way the Galopin Des Champs just makes up ground through the air, and I think probably in the championship racing that might be the telling. I think this will be a really good race, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I think I'm going to side with Ben.
Will, are you with?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with those two. Just purely down to the jumping, really. Bob Olinger, it's probably been, look, he's unbeaten, but it's kind of almost been a bit underwhelming because of the jumping, really. You want to, as I said before, I love to see a real strong, fluent jumping novice, and he hasn't looked that to me. He's obviously got a huge engine. He was seriously impressive last year. But jumping is the name of the game, and Galopin Des Champs has looked very sharp, very fluent, and if these races are just, the top level are decided by who makes the least errors often, and I think that would be him.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go against all three of you. I think Bob Olinger on better ground at Cheltenham, his jumping, I think it improved. I think it'll improve again. I think he'll be able to settle in behind Galopin, and I think his engine going up the hill, he'll win. And the other one I'm going to throw in there, I'm not sure he's going to run. I really, really hope he does, is Saint Sam. I think he might go for the Arkle, but I think he looks like a future stayer in the making, and I would absolutely love him to come here and represent the Willie Mullins team along with Galopin de Champs, and I think he would be a cracking bet because he's going to be a big price compared to those other two who are going to be rightly very, very short price favourites.
On Bob Bollinger, it's not just the fact that he hasn't looked that fluent. It's also the fact that they've said he isn't that fluent and that he's had to have extra schooling and stuff like that. I just like them to be a natural.
Do you think if he didn't have Honeysuckle, he might actually be in the Champion Hurdle?
Maybe.
Well, I guess we'll wait and find out and see who's right. Next up, we have the Potemps. So we'll try and whiz through this. Winterfog's been really well tipped up, short and massively in price. You've got Sire de Burley, who's kind of becoming a Potemps specialist, going for the hat trick. Another one that's been well tipped up is Fergal's Alaphilippe, who I think has a cracking chance here. I really actually liked its run at Warwick. So I do think the bit that concerns me is they've seemed to have kept him off good ground. I don't know if that's the kind of whether he doesn't go on it or whether they've been trying to hold his mark back. And I'm just going to put in a flyer here. We do have the half sister to Small Present, but I just think that at massive odds, it's like 50-1, not guaranteed to get a run. I actually think that he's been running really well on soft and heavy ground. And I think now he's going to get good ground. I think he's going to improve loads. And he is my absolute outside flyer from the blue. Jonjo, who do you think is going to win the Potemps?
I think it's very difficult. You probably want to see what's getting backed on the day, I would imagine. You got Emmett Mullins is, I think, his favourite Winterfog.
Yeah.
He is a very shrewd trainer. I think in the Fergal O'Brien camp, they do fancy Alaphilippe to run a big race. And he is quite interesting. And course form side of Burley. I mean, it's tough to win off 156, but he was second in the Stairs Hurdle last year. He is probably just about a graded horse without being top class. And it wouldn't surprise me if he went out and was very close again.
David Fitch has put up Kansas City Chief at a big price. What do you think, Ben? Is that a good shout, or are you with something else?
I think Kansas City Chiefs had a very busy season.
Yeah.
To be turning up at Cheltenham, he's at the top of his game on his mark, physically, mentally. He's earned his chance to come here. He's earned his tickets, but there'll be something in there that's as good as him and or better than him and half as tired, half as run down. He, fair play to that horse. He has turned up and he has run his races, but it's coming on to Cheltenham now. And, you either earn your place there or you have a right to be there. And I'm not saying he doesn't have a right to be there, but he's earned it. There's better horses in there of lower weights. JP, he's got top weight in there at the minute. That's always a bad sign. They'll have something further down the weights. They'll be trying to get in, sneak it in, mess around with it. Janman used to be a really good horse. He's up in the weights. Ballyandy, I think, is in here. Is he not in here, was he? No. Yes, he is. I always love Ballyandy. He's a champion bumper horse. He's a proper old tool, but he just runs so honest all the time that he just ends up carrying loads of weight when he shouldn't do, and he's not the biggest. But I'd say Fergal's horse for me is the one, Alaphilippe. It's got some really good form. It's qualified for the Potemps. Done. Keep it. Run it to Potemps. Go on to Aintree, Punchestown, whatever. It's trainer's dream to get one that you think's good enough and get it qualified. That's it. Don't do anything else with it. Let's take it straight to Cheltenham. So Alaphilippe for me is the one that I will be backing in that. It's minefield again. But it's a pretty strong selection by Alaphilippe of Fergal O'Brien's. Fergal knows how to get him fit. He doesn't need to bring him to the races. Fergal's horses can turn up and romp home without needing the run. There's your winner.
Okie dokie. Will, do you agree, or have you got something else lined up for us?
No, I'm going to give you some each way, or relatively big each way prices. If the cap fits, he's obviously been a Grade 1 winner, class horse. Someone will tell me what weight he's in off here. Where is he? 137. It's only 10. You know, Kansas City Chiefs 13. He's rated £7 lower. So just that in itself says to me that horse could be well in. Silver Sheen is a frustrating horse. I thought he was really going to kick on. He's in off 10-2, rate 132. Jesse Harrington's not had a great season. She's had about 9 winners or something daft. And then Born Patriot of Peter Fahey's. Obviously, he's got a record in these types of races. He beat Kansas City. No, sorry, finished second behind Kansas City Chief there in October. He was only a 5-year-old, so he's only 6 now. He was giving nearly 2 stone away, I think it was, and he's just beaten. So I think they're all 20-1 plus like that, and I'll probably have each way bets on all 3 of those.
Okay, but Jonjo is actually going to have to leave us. So before you go, Jonjo, a few questions for you because I know everybody will be wanting to know. Stayers Hurdle champ, are you going to win?
I hope so. I've sat on him a few times now the last couple of weeks, and he's in good form. It's an interesting race because like they've all been beating each other really this year. I think Flooring Porter is interesting if he handles the prelims all right, because you know the race with Classical Dream won at Leopardstown, like there was all that thing about the start. I thought he still ran very well. And I think he probably comes into the race probably with the. I think if there was a jockey wanting to ride a horse now, I think out of all of them, I think that was probably the most solid option. But Paisley Park, like as he showed in the Cleve Hurdle, what he can do on that track is just freakish sometimes. And if he puts in a performance like that, I don't think anything will beat him. But it just depends now, this stage of his career, what Paisley Park turns up. I think he's been pretty solid all year. He ran well at Ascot behind Champ as well. Time Hill's another one. I think it's so open, but if Champ goes in, if he's the same horse as he was at Ascot, I wouldn't trust him.
Super. Who do you think is going to win the Gold Cup? Just one name.
Protectorat.
Okay, interesting. If you could ride any horse at the festival who you're not already riding, so you can't choose Champ, who would it be?
Honeysuckle, I think. Just purely because horses like her don't, good horses in Grade 1 winners come around every season, but horses like her don't come around very often. I think to be involved with her would just be unbelievable.
Okay, and the final question for you, for everyone, is your best bet of the week and your each way selection. Who are you going to go for?
I think Nuba Negra, definitely agree with Ben, 10-1. I think, because it is such a good race at the minute, but they could go very quick and they could just burn each other off a little bit. Harry Skelton, I would imagine, is going to be keen not to get involved until very late, and I think he could just pick up some of the pieces. So I think he's probably best each way, but I think 10-1. He's a good horse. He will be thereabouts. I think that's a good price. And what was the other one? The Banker, was it?
Yeah. Who's your best bet?
Hillcrest and the Albert Bartlett. I've loved him ever since he was winning his bumpers, but when he won on New Year's Day, I thought if he went to the Albert Bartlett, he would go very close. And with Manila Crooner, unfortunately, out, made it a little bit easier. But he's going to have a good race against Jinto. But if I had any horse that I'd like to ride at the festival with for a best chance, I think it'd be Hillcrest.
Super. Thank you very much for joining us, Jonjo, and best of luck next week. And hopefully you get at least one winner and hopefully a couple.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
And then there were 3. Hopefully we're the 3 wise men, but I'm not so sure about that. So that we'll move on from the Potents onto the Ryanair. Be made a slightly more interesting race, I think, now that we've got conflated, looks like the O'Learys have got their way and he's not going to go in the Gold Cup. So what do we think? Is it it's still Allaho's to lose, isn't it? Surely he's the only thing that's going to beat him is himself if he puts in a bad jump or something. Surely.
Yeah. If Allaho turns up, he wins. It's Allaho's race to lose.
Yeah, he's looked pretty imperious in the last 12 months, hasn't he? Since he won this race last year. Even his second when they dropped him back in trip in Ireland. He's very, very good.
Yeah, I think for me, he's the banker of the whole festival. I can't see anything getting close to him. I think he's an absolute machine, and I think the more interesting question in this race is perhaps who's gonna come second to him. Almost, is it going to be conflated? You got Eldorado Allen, I think, has run really well and has a chance. Shamblu, obviously for the Skeltons, was running an absolute cracking race. Before he fell, they freshened him up. And then what about the perennial bridesmaid Mellon? Is he going to get another second? What do you think, Ben? Where do you think? I think we're all pretty clear Allaho's wins, but who comes second?
I've always liked the way Skelton's prepping his horses this time for Cheltenham. I do think it's the right thing for him to do. I wouldn't be surprised to see Shamblu turn up and run Stormer again. That would be good to see. It's Allaho's race to lose. Conflated. You say Conflated's running in this, is he?
Yeah, it looks like he's definitely going to run in this. Looks like Gordon has lost the argument with the O'Learys.
He's one of them horses that he's a Yates out presenting mare. He should like a bit better ground. I'm not saying Cheltenham's going to be good ground on the day, but could the soft round Cheltenham better than whatever they've got in Ireland and whatever he's ran on.
Today, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, I'm only 25 minutes, half an hour away at the minute, and there's not been a lot of rain here today anyway. I would have fancied Conflated as a small each way in the Gold Cup. So I'd probably have to say he'll probably come second to Allaho. I think he's one of them horses that's going to turn up and he'll outrun his race big time. I don't know if he make Allaho sweat for it, but I like his profile. I like the Dublin Racing Festival as a stepping stone to Cheltenham big time. So yeah, Conflated.
Will, do you think Shamblu's going to come second? I mean, it'll be one hell of a training performance from Skelton, won't it? If he gets him to come second to a horse as good as Allaho. Yeah,
he looked really good, didn't he? And quite exciting. And then he had a couple of blips, and they ran him quite hard, didn't they? And it's interesting to see him here coming fresh because, like last year, they kind of, they went quite hard with him, as I say. And he looked like such a good jumper, didn't he? And then, he fell at Wetherby with the race in the bag. So he could go really well. Conflated, obviously, did what he did in Ireland there. He's by Yates. Could be brilliant, could be frustrating. As they've said, that is a trait, I think, of a lot of his progeny. But it should. Allaho is look. Allaho put up the best performance at last year's Cheltenham Festival. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And if he does anything near that, nothing will get near him.
Yeah. That brings us on to what I think is possibly the biggest puzzle of the whole week, the Stayers Hurdle. As Jonjo said, he said he wouldn't change champ. He's feeling really good. The stats would go against him. No 10-year-olds ever won the Stayers Hurdle. They've all been beating each other. I'm going to put one in at a slightly bigger price just because I think you can pick a hole in all of the shorter ones. And I think Royal Kahala, if they go for the 3 miles, I think she could be the best value in this race. I think she's got the fewest kind of question marks to answer. We know she stays 3 miles. We know she's going to perform. And obviously, Flooring Porter's a bit quirky. Paisley Park, definitely quirky. Champ, didn't perform last time. And Classical Dream bombed out, although Willie did come out pretty quickly and say he made a mistake. Where are you with this race, Will?
Right. Classical Dream is very much in the camp of kind of boom or bust, isn't he? You know, he can look freakishly good. I know, like, he stole that race in some people's eyes against Florent Porter earlier in the year. But if he's on his A game,
let's change the question a little bit. If every single one of the horses all turn up, so Champ, Paisley Park, they all turn up in their A game, who's the best horse out of them?
Well, if that happens, we're in for a fantastic race. Because Time Hill is, I can't believe he's only 8. Feels like he's been around for years. He's so solid. He's a horse I absolutely love. Florent Porter's very good. Obviously won the race last year. I'd backed him there. Classical Dream, the run he put in at the Punchestown Festival last year was freakishly good. Champ coming back to hurdles, looked good, was disappointing last time. Paisley Park, what do you say about that last run? I mean, that was just ridiculous.
Was that good or did everything else?
I'm firm. I'm in the Royal Kahala camp. I hope she doesn't take on Stormy in the mares race. I still think we'd have the beating of her, obviously, but I want to see her in this race.
I think she's a great price.
And I like Indefatigable too. She's got such a great record around this course. 3 miles. I'd love to see a mare 1-2.
Okay. Ben, who put us out of our misery, we both are going for Royal Kahala. Who do you think?
I would have to go Flooring Porter. Rumours were last year he worked really well coming up to Cheltenham. He's the one that I was told had worked with American Mike at Fairy House, and he's supposed to work really well. Again, the Dublin Racing Festival is a great stepping stone for Cheltenham. Classical Dream, I don't quite know what happened last time. I'd heard rumours that he'd bled. I don't know how true that is. But he ran at Dublin Racing Festival, stole the race, won the race, whatever you want to say. Look, it's a stepping stone for Cheltenham for a lot of horses like that. Gavin Cromwell preps horses fantastically for Cheltenham. I've no doubt he'll turn this thing up. Like I said, in Ireland, they can run in schooling bumpers, schooling hurdles. He'll have him fit, ready to rock. He is the one, for me, he would nearly be one of the bankers at Cheltenham for me, I think, by a long way. He's a solid profile. I know he's got some dips in that, but he's a fresh horse. He likes to run fresh. He runs hard. He's the solid option, although he doesn't have a solid profile. Time Hill, what they took him to France for, I have no idea. It was never going to work out, but I understand people have to try things. The prize winner is fantastic. Champ's one of them horses that no one can ever seem to get him right. When they run him and he thinks he needs to run, he goes and wins. When they run him and they think he's fit, he runs flat. It's one of them. Paisley Park's too old now, I think, personally. I remember getting beaten by him around Haydock in the staying hurdle. I think it was the 3 mile grade 2 with a nice horse of ours. And he came from out of the clouds and beat us over the last night. I thought the race won. Unfortunately, the horse is no longer with us. But yeah, I just think he's getting too old, Paisley Park. Champ is a dodge pot. Time Hill is a fantastic horse. I've always watched him, always admired him. He's been a really good horseback since his novice hurdle days, since bumper days. He's always been a dark horse. Classical Dream, I couldn't trust. They ran him at the Dublin Racing Festival. Then they ran him again and he bombed out. Now, whether he had a hard race at Dublin Racing Festival and then bombed out after.
Is it not just that he's got this record of when he's fresh, he is like he's imperious? I do think I agree with Cy Christopher here that if all of the front in the market turned up, I think on raw ability, I think he's the best.
I think he's an out and out galloper, and what he seems to turn up and do is almost supernatural for a horse like him. Willie is able to do that with horses, but you can't produce horses to do that all the time. Flooring Porter, if he had gone from the Dublin Racing Festival to Cheltenham, I would say Classical Dream is a danger, which Flooring Porter is doing. Flooring Porter's gone from Dublin Racing Festival to Cheltenham. I think that's the best way of doing it. Classical Dream, maybe had a hard race there. I don't know. Maybe he will turn back up. But I would say Flooring Porter will probably take a fair bit of pegging back in that, personally.
Okie dokie. So we've got two shouts for Royal Kahala and then Flooring Porter for Ben. And that moves us on to the Paddy Power Plate, where we've got 2 mile 4. And I really, really fancy Imperial Alcazar here. I think he's got great form at the track. He's improving loads. I think the trip is a massive plus compared to last year. And I just think that this, he's 3 wins and 1 second over 2 Mile 4, which I think is massive. And his second came to Protectorat, who's one of the favourites for the Gold Cup, and he only lost by a head. I think that form is just incredible, and I think he's not even the favourite. I think he is serious value, and he's definitely my proposition for this. Will, who are you going for?
I've got nothing in my notes, which means I'm either puzzled or no real interest. Just put it out there. I'm not a fan of going to 5 days. So I like the Grade 1 big races. This is, you've got a 10-year-old rated 141, favourite for a handicap chase at Cheltenham. Grand Paradise of Gordon's actually, he's quite a nice horse. 6 fits that profile I said of being quite sort of younger, possibly improving. So I'd go with that, and then the shunter if he goes here, maybe.
Okay. Ben, who do you like? That's nothing then.
Yeah, no, it's
okay.
It's a
dodge race.
You are sorry.
I said you're quite all right to say that you don't have a strong opinion.
I mean, one of my favourite old horses runs in this. That I say old, he's not that old, but I've always followed him. Is Adramel. Whether he gets in, whether he runs, I don't know. But he's a horse with a big engine. He has overdone himself at times. I think that's his biggest problem. But it's a 2.5 mile handicap. The 2 mile you can get away with picking something from the front like Gumball that will go and do. 2.5 mile, you're taking tactics and everything into account, and it can just be a bit of a minefield. You've got horses that have earned their chance here, and horses that are coming here as a dark horse. Celeb Delon is the favourite. He's won his last 3. He's earned his chance here, but he's coming here after doing well already, so he's earned his chance rather than something down the weights that is, better handicapped. It's a minefield. It's a place buster.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really strong on Imperial Alcazar. I would say that if L'Empresse does really well in the Brown Advisory, that improves Glancing Queen's form massively. So if L'Empresse runs well, I would also be backing Glancing Queen, and we'll move swiftly onto the Mares Novice, where I will state my claim. I've got a small share in Grangy, and for me, she beat Brandy Love in bumpers. She won impressively first time out. She jumps really well. Willie put her straight into a Grade 1 against the boys, where Paul Townend came in afterwards and said he got it wrong. He went way too soon. She just surprised him with a turn of foot. Ryan Cooper last time came off after she jumped really well and she just knuckled on landing. He came off and he was confident that he had Allegory, Devassi and Brandy Love covered in that race, which I think if she had stayed up and won, she'd be favourite for this. So she is my each way selection, and I'm massive on her. I think Dino Blue does look very impressive, but I'm all over Grangy for this. Ben, any strong opinions?
Dino Blue, when it won around Clonmel, was mega impressive. You don't do that on heavy ground around Clonmel. But it's coming to Cheltenham. It's only had 1 run. We've all seen horses like this every year at Cheltenham that have demolished a race. And when they actually get competitive and they have to take a lead, drop in, they have to run at Cheltenham, where you can't just go off in front and be an absolute lunatic, or you're not going to get everything your own way. It can falter them. And 9-4 for horses only ran once going to Cheltenham. This isn't champion bumper, so it's up to you. But Grangy is the one that has a very, very solid profile. It is the grade.
Good lad.
It's great in the Mares Novice. It's straightforward for me personally.
Well, are you agreeing, or do you think there's something else in there that is gonna win?
I mean, I'd love to get my leg over Brandy Love.
I'm sure you would. I'm not sure your wife would be so fun.
Impervious.
Okay. We'll move swiftly on to the Kim Muir We won't hang around on this too much. This is surely a case of just seeing where the jockeys go first and foremost, isn't it? And seeing who Jamie Codd rides, who Patrick rides, who Derek O'Connor rides. Is that not the starting point that you've got to go for this?
Yeah, the difference between a good amateur and, I'm not going to say a bad amateur, but a lesser amateur, or the difference between the Irish amateurs are basically professionals. That's what they are. And that is like, you need to give someone £20 less weight to ride against Jamie Codd almost at times, and Patrick Mullins, Barry O'Neill, all them lads out there, they're just different gravy. They'll get the pick of everything because it's the way it is, and that'll narrow it down massively from there.
Well, do you agree? No point looking too much into this. You need to see who's riding first.
Yeah. Yes and no. Fakir Delan, for me, maybe. Be interesting to see who gets a ride on that. And I quite like that Omar Moretti of Alex Hales. He's done nothing wrong.
Okie dokie. We'll move on to the final day as it currently stands. Friday, the Triumph Hurdle is the start. And it could be a cracking race, I would say that first. I really was impressed with Pied Piper at Cheltenham last time out, but he's quite short price now. So I'm going to put up Ilete Tom, who I thought was seriously impressive and a massive eye catcher. Was only beaten last time out by 5 3/4 lengths to Vauban. That was his first run over hurdles. If he improves as much as Vauban did for his first run over hurdles, then he turns that form around straight away for me. Willie's got a clear record of young horses improving a lot from their first to second run. And I just think he is a massive, massive price, and he'll definitely be my selection for this race. Where are you going with this, Will?
Yeah, on good advice of Stormy Island's co-owner, Dave Greenway, who I know will be very glad that he gets a mention on such a prestigious podcast as this. The same as you, Tom, Ilete Tom, or however you pronounce it. He was there last week, said it worked brilliantly. And I see it's come in a fair bit in price now. So I had a couple of quid each way on it. He looks... What's exciting about these races is the unexposed, as and the talking horses. It's by a stallion that I love in Jury. We've actually sent a mare out there last night. He's exciting. I like Porticello, as I said before, with the form with Jane Williams' horse. Also, Vauban looks very strong as well. So this is a really, really exciting race.
Okie dokie. Ben, who are you going for?
Very straightforward rule for me when it comes to the Triumph Hurdle. It's the Spring Juvenile race at Leopardstown is the best trial for the Triumph Hurdle by a long way. And Vauban, everyone mad about Pied Piper when it won, and it was a week, I think, before the Dublin Racing Festival, and I just said to everyone, look, just hold fire. That Spring Juvenile race is always the race to go with. And Vauban came out and decimated them, and he was the one that everyone started talking about straight away. And it's always the way. I wouldn't be surprised if the first three in the Spring Juvenile are the first three home in the Triumph. Vauban, Phil Dorr, and I ain't going to try and pronounce it either. But that is the way forward. I mean, Vauban would probably be the pick of the three for me. But I wouldn't be surprised if Phil Dorr came and done him. And at 6-1, I would probably take Phil Dorr because it's a nicer price. There's not a lot between them, to be fair. Gordon's horses, I'd prefer Gordon with a Triumph Hurdler than Willie. I would prefer
Gordon's talked up Phil Dorr the whole time, hasn't he? He's always said he's kind of preferred him over Pied Piper. He's
got a bit more experience as well. And sometimes the juveniles, you can teach them as much as you want at home, but actually getting to the races is a different game. And Phil Dorr would probably be the one for me at 6-1. I think that's a massive price for him. He's only got to turn around the form a little bit with Vauban, but the Spring Juvenile is always the best trial for the Triumph. Everything else can come win them Triumph Hurdle trials around Cheltenham. It doesn't matter. The Spring Juvenile is where you go if you've got a nice Triumph Hurdle horse in Ireland.
Yeah,
well,
this is an Irish race, isn't it? Surely.
yeah, I think it's definitely an Irish race, and yeah, I'm really confident on the Ilete Toms. I think for Willie Mullins to put him in first time over hurdles in a Grade 1 and to run that well tells me everything I need to know. So we'll move swiftly on. I think we've covered that pretty well there. We won't carry on in the county for too long. State Man we spoke about previously. County hurdle would seem to possibly be the more likely place for him to run, given it's over 2 mile 1. What about the one I really like is one that you said earlier, Colonel Mustard. I think his form behind John Bon and Sir Gerhard puts him off his mark that he's got as a massive player. And the other one I really like is First Street for Nicky Henderson. Does worry me about his form, but I think he's a massive price, and a strongly run 2 mile 1 will be bang up his street. And I think he might well be the first Cheltenham winner for Golden Horn, who I think might provide us with another one a bit later on as well. Where are you, Ben? Any strong fancies?
I always think about the county hurdle. I always think it's a dangerous race, dangerous to ride in, dangerous to run a horse in. Skelton, like I said, he's won the race before. He can train very fast hurdlers, and West Cork to me is the standout pick, just on profiles and everything going. Someone mentioned in the comments there about Cormier going for the bonus.
Yeah, David Fitch. I think he's got a good chance, and I've been impressed with his 2 runs. I think
to do that bonus though is difficult.
Are we
for a trainer to do it?
Are we making it think it's easier because the shunter did it last year? But that was a proper job by Emmett Mullins, wasn't it? It's not easy to do, is it?
It's not. No way is it easy to do. And the fact the horse has won a big race in the last 13 days for me writes him off. To come out of that and come to Cheltenham and win a mega handicap is mega difficult. Like I said, Skelton's brought his horses here fresh. It's a 2 mile race. You want to be sharp as you can be. I like the way Skelton's prepping his horses for Cheltenham this year. I think this year will probably be his best Cheltenham. I don't know if he's going to break any records, but it'll probably be his best Cheltenham.
Will, any strong opinions on the county?
Right. Well, I know we said we weren't going to spend too much time on the county, on any of the handicaps, but I actually think this is possibly the best handicap of the week. State Man, it's got 1 million entries for the week. Looks very exciting. He's top of the betting. Top Bandit's a horse I like of Gordon's. He's a half brother to a horse I used to follow called Spirit Shankly. Bit of a shite name, but he was a good horse. I like to move it. Another horse ran really well, just beaten obviously at Newbury in the big hurdle there. My mate Mozzie. Quilixios, another horse with sort of Grade 1 form. Colonel Mustard, another one that I mentioned earlier. Party Central. I think there's horses in here that could be above the grade. Multiple horses.
So you think it could be a really strong race?
Yeah, what have I put down? State Man, Top Bandit, which sounds really, they're actually the top 2 in the betting. But this is one of the few handicaps. I'm really looking forward to this race.
Yeah, this is a handicap with some nice novices in it.
Yeah,
and I do think this is the best handicap of the meeting. But to run a novice in the county, madness. You've got Henderson's nice novice in there, Balco Coastal. You want something that's battle hardened for this, not a novice. Personally, that's why I like.
I would go for an Irish novice though, because they are battle hardened.
Yeah, they're battle hardened in other ways. Now, instead of raced to be battle hardened for a fact, you look at half of them, and the Irish novices, you would get more scrummaging in an English novice, you would say, than an Irish novice. But I still just think racecourse experience, getting in amongst them, you're not going to make the running the whole way around in the county hurdle, no matter how good a novice you are, unless you should be in the champion hurdle or the supreme novice. But it's you want something that's got scrummaging form, something that learns how to push his way out and hold his own.
Okie dokie. Next up, we have the Albert Bartlett. For me, Hillcrest is going to win this. I think he's also the horse in here who has the most potential going forward to become a real top-class horse. So I looked at some of the bigger prices, and one that I found that isn't that much of a bigger price, but I really like is Staghorn. He actually beat Party Business last time out over 2.5 miles, who Ben was giving a big shout to. I think this step up and trip will mean, and better ground will mean, that Staghorn improves loads. You know, he's a horse that came fourth in the Queen Alexandria Stakes over 2.5 miles. Well, 2 miles, 5.5 furlongs. So you know, the stamina is assured. He's 108 rated on the flat. He's a really good jumper. And although I think Hillcrest is definitely the one to beat, I think at the odds, Staghorn is a massive, massive runner. And the other one I like each way is Classic Getaway. To me, he looks like just a complete galloper. They paid a lot of money for him. I know he's been kind of a bit disappointing, but I think now they're stepping him up in trip. I think he's a stamina horse and not a speed horse. Where do you land in this race, Ben?
I do fancy Ginto, but the Albert Bartlett of me is always a race that it's always a race where you can back a big price one. It always comes down to who keeps galloping towards the end, and
that's Hillcrest then, surely, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Hillcrest. I don't really know why. I've just never really fancied him as being a really good novice. You know, you don't see many. I forget his name now and I sound like an idiot. Trevor Hemmings novice hurdlers that are top grade ones. They're usually put away by now. Maybe that's what it is. But Ginto has a really progressive profile. He hasn't gone up to 3 miles yet. Is it going to work? I don't know. You would think it would do. That's definitely one for me. But the one I really fancy is Ballygriffin Cottage.
Oh, okay.
He's a massive price, and that's what I look for in Albert Bartlett, is something like him. He's my pick in Albert Bartlett.
He was put in at the deep end, wasn't he? First time up.
Yeah. Staghorn was gifted the race at Warwick. He was left in front. You know, I don't know if he's got the stamina to be winning an Albert Bartlett. It is a proper...
What? He ran over 2 mile 5 on the flat. Surely stamina's assured, surely.
I've got a Royal Ascot winner that can't win a novice hurdle. So
that's just
Royal Ascot winner and you can't win a novice.
That's just the assistant trainer.
Oh yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
What about you, Will? Who are you going for?
I like Hillcrest. He's a big, lovely big horse. But again, this is quite intriguing race. Manila Kakuna beat Manila Crooner, didn't he, last time out?
Yeah, I think Manila Kakuna looks like it's going for the Ballymore.
He's not going here.
No, doesn't look like it. No.
Right. Okay. Well,
unless Willie changes his mind, which obviously he could well do.
Loves an entry fee. Staghorn, yeah, very impressive. He's actually Golden Horn's highest rated flat horse, isn't he?
I think he might be. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. I think he is. So. Classic Getaway, I think he will be a bigger price than he should be because he got beaten the time the 2 runs ago at Clonmel or wherever it was, beaten by whatever he's called, by Linda's Lad Horse. So I think he'll be a big each way price, 20 to 1. That's just that's an each way bet to nothing, I think, actually. And then there's a couple of horses I quite like there. Henry de Bromhead's Grand Jury, maybe just been a little bit disappointing recently. Look, he's probably not going to go in this race. I think he's entered in the Martin Pipe and the County. So he's another horse I should have mentioned. I'd follow where he goes. And Willie's got another one there called Kinsey. It's run once. It's run once in Ireland. It's won once. It's 25 to 1. Just that profile again. It's running in this race, 25 to 1. Looks up. It could be anything.
And then we come to the big race, the Gold Club.
The one that was in this race, I forgot to mention Chartreuse, Henry's horse.
Okay,
that's the other one.
So the Gold Cup, big race of the week. Who is going to win it then?
It's between the top two, I think, in the market for me.
So for you think it's between Galvin and a Plutar?
Yeah.
This is a race I can't wait to watch. To actually pick the winner of it is another story. It is going to be probably the best race in the meeting for me because I think so many are coming in with chances. A Plutard, Galvin, Melarindo, Alaho, Protectorat. Protectorat is one that I do fancy. It's another Skelton horse. I'd fancy Conflated. I'd love to see him.
This rate, you need to back Skelton for top trainer at the festival.
No, I would say be Willie or Gordon top trainer, but I think Skelton's gonna have a good time. I'm not over keen on Henry's horse, and I don't know why. Probably because it's such a good year last year. They weren't quite right at Christmas. I'm not over convinced with them. Manila Indo to come back and do it again, I think that's going to be difficult. I do like Galvin because I know he's an out-and-out stay. I don't think Albin Photo will come back and do it. I would love to have seen Conflated come because he's a young horse coming up through the ranks and do it. I do fancy Protectorat. Galvin and Protectorat if I had to pick two, but it's going to be a great race to watch. I wish Conflated was in it because I'd love to see a young horse come and try and, I say young horse, but he's 8-year-old, but try and come and do them all. But he just turned up on the scene. I'd love to see him win a Gold Cup, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was entirely possible.
I think of the short team, my personal view would be that a Plutard I prefer him over Galvin. I think even though Galvin beat him last time, I think actually he was kind of in the wrong position at every single point in the race. And I really fancy him to return reverse the form of Galvin. But my head is going to be, I don't know whether my heart's ruling my head, because obviously Walk in the Storm for Top Speed, her half brother goes here. But I do really think that Tornado Fly has been massively overlooked. He's only run at 3 miles twice. One of the times he was beaten, by a serious horse, and the second time he goes and wins a King George. And I just think Willie seems so confident that the actual extended 3 miles will make him even better in what looks like a wide open race with plenty of decent horses, but no real standouts. We've not got a Native River in top form or a Might Bite or anything. I just think that him at about 8-1, 9-1, I think he's the clear value of the lot. Where do you stand with that, Will?
Yeah, he was an eye catcher. He stayed on really well in the Ryanair last year to finish third. Did he? I think.
Yeah.
He was dropped out. Alaho absolutely nailed them all. Maybe killed them all. So you could say, look, that was it was a one-horse race that killed everything off, and he picked up the pieces. But then he's gone and won a King George. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. 10-1. I was probably hoping to see him a little bit bigger than that. If I'm being honest, but that probably shows the strength of support maybe behind him. He's got a chance. The thing is, between the top two at the market, A Plutard has that kind of, he's like the sexy horse, and Galvin is kind of like, oh, it's Galvin. Why is that?
I think it's because they never expected him to be a Gold Cup horse. They always thought he was kind of a National Hunt Cup horse type thing, didn't they?
Like the National Hunt Chase was actually often a better prep race for next year's Gold Cup than the RSA, because the RSA would ruin horses. So maybe I'm talking myself around to Galvin. I've always backed him, supported him, but sometimes you get swayed, don't you, by other people's way of thinking. And A Plutard in the Betfair Chase was phenomenal.
Yeah,
that was an outrageous performance.
But
Galvin's just very, very solid.
It's all stamina now, the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
There's not been many decent. Albin Photo looked really sexy when he won it, but he's turned out to be a nice ground galloper, And A Plutard, no doubt he'll probably make the running, or he'll be in front coming to the second last. But Galvin, he is the slower one. He is the one that will just keep galloping and gallop on broken glass. Do what you want. He will just keep going, and that's what the Gold Cup is nowadays. It's a tough race, and that's why you can't come back and win it twice. It is becoming really hard work.
Maybe Galvin is the type of horse that could come back. Maybe Galvin is the type of horse that could come back and win it twice.
I think the other thing in favour for Tornado Flyer, I'll plug him again, is I think Danny Mullins is riding on absolute fire. I've been so impressed with him, and he's kept it up all season. I think if he's on the horse, it's certainly an advantage. I think he's been incredible all season.
He's always been an unrated rider, though. I mean, I remember a while ago he went out to America and he rode 4 winners out of 8 rides, I think it was. He's always been a massively underrated rider.
You weren't saying this earlier when we were talking about Stormy Island, were you? I mean,
well, no, I think he gives Stormy Island a better chance, but I really like Queen's Brook for that race. I love her profile for that race. Next up, we have the Hunter Chase. We won't spend much time on this. Again, I'd say follow the jockeys. The 3 that kind of looked a little bit appealing to me was Wing Leader, who smashed Bill away last time out, who's the favourite. Cousin Pascal beat Bob and Co, who's one of the short price. And Highway Jewel, I thought was interesting and will be ridden by her trainer, which I quite liked. He's a good jockey. So they're the 3, but it's Hunter Chase. I'm not particularly fussed, to be perfectly honest. What about you, Ben?
I still couldn't believe Billoway got beaten it last year. I thought he was home. No, I thought this is the one. This decimates this. And
apparently he's going to have cheap pieces this year. If that makes
sense. I mean, look, they'll train him for the race. I think that's the ideal thing. They're older horses. You just don't want to take 5-2 in Hunter Chase about anything. They're absolute minefields of races. It's just a great race to watch. It's not a race to bet in. I learn't that last year when I backed Bill away.
What about you, Will? Have you got any fancies or just quickly?
Certainly no fancies. Highway Jewel, I agree. I think Bradley Gibbs is a good trainer, brilliant jockey, very strong. Like to see him go well. So no real strong opinions in that, I'm afraid. But yeah, David Christie's horse with Barry O'Neill. That I've seen him a few times and he's looked pretty solid.
Okay. That brings us on to the Mare's Chase. I think quite an interesting race, but not very strong as my personal view of it. And again, I took kind of a punting angle from it. And I looked at which horse I think was overpriced. And I think the clear one here is Scarlet and Dove. I cannot see why there is such a massive price difference between her and Mount Ida. I think she could easily reverse that form. So that's my bet at a bit of an each way price. Where are you on this race, Ben?
I think Ellie May was unlucky to get beaten it last year. Cole Reevy is a good horse, and she turned up and smashed it. And I couldn't see Ellie May getting beaten it last year.
Yeah, neither could I. And then she got beaten.
I mean, there's no Cole Reevy in it this year. Mount Ida's in there. On a profile.
Looks like she'll go here. Would she be one that interests you?
Mount Ida?
No, Constatista.
Yeah. I've had my heart set on this for Ellie May for a long time. I think this is the one that she should win, and this is the one she wants to turn up in. And I can't convince myself to go with anything else other than Ellie May. I just think last year I thought she had absolutely won before she left, and Coley beat her. And she was beaten fair and square by a much better horse, and she would be the one for me. Mount Ida might have beaten her again, but I still fancy Ellie May on better ground around Cheltenham.
Will, who do you fancy for this?
I think you're all mad. I think Mount Ida wins it.
Okie dokie.
Ellie May, she got beaten it last year. She got beat at Aintree. She's one of those that's been beaten a few times. And
none of the British, Zambella for Twiston Davis, not interested.
No, hopefully Constatista goes here and not the Mare's.
If she goes to the Mare's Hurdle, she adds a serious level to that, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think she'd be better off in here.
That's just because you got Stormy Island.
Yeah, we're not afraid of anybody. So, she's been chasing this year. Let's just send her here. It makes the race way more interesting.
Does that not show you that Willie's not perhaps particularly confident in Ellie May?
Possibly. But also, he's got Stormy, he's got Burning Victory.
Yeah, Yeah, he's got a lot of nice horses.
So yeah, it could say one thing, could say another. But from this is the first year, isn't it, that we've got this race?
Second year.
Second year.
Ellie May lost in it last
second year we got this race. So I want to see better mares in this race to support this race going forwards, because this is a race that is here to stay and it needs to be a good race. And that's why I'd like to see Concertista go in here. And it'd be a competitive race. I think Mount Ida is the best horse in it, and maybe Gin Online for a place.
Okie dokie. That brings us to the final race, the Martin Pipe. I think good risk at all. I think he might go here, and I would really fancy him here. The other one that I really, really like is Chemical Energy. Really good performance in his last 3 runs, 2 wins and a second. And that second was to a very good horse, my mate Mozzie. And that was down at 2 miles. I think 2 miles 4 is his trip. And I'm all over Chemical Energy for this. How about you, Ben? Any strong opinions?
Again, Skelton's horse Langerdown second in last year. He's the yardstick for me. I think Skelton's had earmarked Cheltenham with this horse again. Like he had a run.
He looks absolutely teed up for it, doesn't he? And on the weights and everything, he came second last year. He's had a pipe opener, being dropped 3 pounds. He looks so well in, doesn't he?
He's good. He turned back up, run his same race. He might finish second again. Willie Mullins has got another nice
second. Energy. I'll be all right.
Willie Mullins has got Stake Man in this. It follows similar profile, Galloping de Champs. He's a nice novice turning up in the Martin Pipe race. Is he going to be the next Galloping de Champs? I don't know. But your yardstick is Langerdown. He's the consistent one. He's the one that should turn up, run his race. He'll run to his mark again. He might decimate it because he might turn up better than he did last year because he's fresh this year. Other than having a pipe opener, I don't know. But Stake Man is the one that I would be most worried about.
Okie dokie. Will, any strong views on this race?
Well, yeah, just look wherever State Man goes. We've mentioned him. We've all mentioned him, haven't we? So
he's a serious. Whichever handicap he goes in, he's going to be a big player in, isn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah, it looks that way. Langerdan, I don't know. Like he's been there, done it. I know Ben, you're saying about Dan's horses going off, fresh. 137.
Do you think that will work? That's, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with Ben in that point. I don't think Langerdan has got much in hand off 137. Is probably my gut feeling.
Okay.
But I'd normally go with a Skelton horse in a handicap. And then you got a lot of decent horses there. This is it's actually probably a better race than it should be, potentially. But having said that, there's quite a few horses in here that are probably going to end up running elsewhere. So, yeah, I've got no. It's a State Man, but no, I've got no strong opinions on this race because there's so many horses that got entries and that will probably or might run elsewhere.
Okay, one question.
What I did want to see run was Napper's Hill, but he runs tomorrow, doesn't he?
Yeah, he runs in the Imperial Cup tomorrow. I was with you on that. I would like him in one of these handicaps, but he goes tomorrow.
Yeah, and Grand Jury is entered in this as well.
Yeah.
I think he's got 3 entries all on the Friday.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I'll ask each of you for your best bet of the week and also your each way bet of the week. Let's start off with you, Ben.
Nap of the week, you have to be Galloping de Champs.
Okay, and your each way bet of the week.
You'll like this one. Party Business if he gets in.
Okay.
But if he doesn't get in, Beacon Edge and All Meads.
Okie dokie. Will, your best bet of the race?
Of the race or of the week?
Sorry, of the week. Of the week.
Stormy Island.
Okie dokie. And your each way selection?
Dusart.
Okay, interesting. And so for me, I'd say my best bet of the race, of the week, is probably it'll turn. Or do I go with Toms in the Triumph? I really fancy him to reverse the form with Vauban, and each way I am going to go for Classic Getaway. I think at 20-1, that is a cracking price in the Albert Bartlett. Okay, thank you very much for joining me, Will and Ben. Thank you very much to Ben being our guest. Been much appreciated. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and hopefully we've managed to find a couple of winners for you all, and enjoy the Cheltenham Festival. We'll certainly be looking forward to it, and then we don't have long until Aintree, where hopefully we've got 2 horses hopefully running on the first day. So fingers crossed for Top Speed at Aintree, and let's hope you all get plenty of money in the pocket for Cheltenham.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks very much. Bye, guys. Bye.